Hello, I'm Mike Klenkes,
And I'm Cindy Smith-Klinke.
and we're here today to give you today's devotional, which comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 14, verses 22 through 33. And this occurs right after Jesus fed the 5,000. Verse 22. Immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from the land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God."
I'd like to give a few thoughts on this particular gospel passage. You know, especially right now, I think all of us can relate to being put through a test, can't we? We're in a time of pandemic, economic uncertainty, social unrest. There's just a lot of things going on around us. And so the disciples in this particular passage were going through a storm. And in many ways, right now, we are in this country as well. So here they are out on a lake, working very hard to get to the other side in a storm, and Jesus appears on the water. What's really noteworthy to me as I studied this passage is that they didn't recognize him. They thought he was a ghost. You know, oftentimes when we're in our storms and trials and tests, it's hard for us to recognize God in the middle of it. That's natural, and that's what fear does to us. It keeps our eyes on other things, on our circumstances, and we find ourselves unable to see or to recognize what God is doing in the midst of our difficult circumstances. And then we see Peter, who initially doubts that it might be Jesus. He says, "If you are, bid me to come." And so Jesus does. He confirms his identity for Peter, and Peter gets out, walks on the water very bravely, but then gets his eyes off of Jesus onto the circumstances and begins to sink. The same is true for us. We can sometimes naturally feel fear, and if we succumb too long to that spirit of fear, we're focused too much on the circumstances and we can find ourselves sinking. But if we stay strong in faith, we can get to where we need to go. And you know, with Jesus in our boat, there's no circumstance, there's no test, there's no trial that we can't go through successfully. So I want to just encourage you as you meditate on this scripture today to stay strong in your faith. No matter how difficult things are around us right now, Jesus will never leave us nor forsake us, and he's in our boat. See you soon, Living Water Church. We hope this has encouraged you.
God bless you all.
God bless you.